Oh, hello, this is Tak Chung from Walk with Tak. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. My wife Joni loves salmon, and she probably could eat salmon every day. I am not a great fan of salmon, but recently I have changed because the way how I cook them. Joni has a high standard for salmon, and most of the salmon that I cook, she thinks they are either overcooked or undercooked. Rarely I will cook them just right. I have tried to cook salmon in many different ways. For example, I have grilled them in the past, and there's a tendency for them to be dry and overcooked. And sometimes I bake them in the oven. And the problem with that is that quite often, part of the salmon is cooked just right, the other part is not. And then I also have tried to pan fry them in a skillet or in a wok. Again, the problem is that the thicker part of the salmon quite often will be undercooked, whereas the thinner part of the salmon is overcooked. And most of the time, when I cook the salmon in pieces like this, it takes a long time. Usually it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to cook them. So one day an idea came to me is that why do I not cut them into pieces before I cook them? This will allow me to treat each individual pieces differently. The thicker pieces, I can cook them longer, whereas the thinner pieces, I can cook them shorter. So I worked on them for about a year, trying different approaches, trying different sizes. So finally, I have created what I call it a perfect salmon template. This template has worked so well that Joni told me that this is the best salmon that she has ever had. And this is quite a compliment from her because she is a salmon eater with the utmost standard. She told me that she would never order salmon again in a restaurant. Now I cook salmon for her at least twice a week, and that makes her very happy. At the same time, it makes me very happy. This is probably, in my mind, the best way to cook salmon. If you love salmon, you definitely should give this a try. When you start a dish, the most important thing is the quality of the ingredients. And this is absolutely true with salmon. I use Atlantic salmon, which I purchased from Aldi, and they have never been frozen. And Aldi is well known for the quality of their fresh salmon. And the prices are quite reasonable. Right now, they're about $9 a pound. And they usually comes in a 1 pound portion. They always come with the skin. And most people don't like salmon skin, but I'm going to show you in this video that's actually one of the best parts of the salmon. So after I got the salmon back, I cut them into chunks, looks like this. And you should make sure you should have a knife that is sharp enough for you to cut through the skin. And for 1 pound of salmon, I usually divide them into 2 meals. I store the one that I don't use in a plastic container for the next meal. So okay, let's go in the kitchen. I'm going to show you how I cook this salmon. I basically use a method, simply is a pan frying method. I start out with about 1 tablespoon of cooking oil, and I use canola oil, and you can use any oil with a high smoking point. I heat up the oil until it starts to smoke gently, and then I turn down the heat. I let it smoke for another 10 to 15 seconds. And this is the time when the wok is being seasoned to create a non-stick cook surface. I call this method spot seasoning because I season the wok each time before a cooking session. So basically, I season it right on the spot. This method is essential for stainless steel wok because they do not hold on to the seasoning. And every time when you wash it, you remove the seasoning. However, you can use this method for other type of wok surface such as carbon steel, cast iron, and light cast iron. You can take a look at this video to learn more about this seasoning method. Okay, now I'm ready to cook. I place the salmon skin side down on the surface of the wok. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to fry the skin of the salmon until it turns crisp. And now most people do not like the salmon skin because it tastes oily. However, this method will drive out the oil from the skin, and it creates a crispy texture for the skin. And it makes the skin really delicious. So I'm going to fry the skin of the salmon for about 1 to 2 minutes until it starts to blacken. And for cooking this salmon, I'm going to add a little bit rosemary right over it. This depends on how I'm going to use the salmon with other ingredients. A lot of time, I do not add anything at all. And managing the heat of your burner is very important when you cook salmon. In the beginning, I start out with the heat at highest setting. And if you see a lot of oil film coming from the wok, you know your burner is too hot and you need to set it down. And I usually turn it to about medium to medium low. If you set the heat higher, it will cook faster, but at the same time, you do not want to fill your room with oil film. In fact, when the salmon is cut into small pieces, you can actually watch them cook. Then I will turn the salmon over to see how it is going at the bottom side of the salmon. If you find the salmon slightly stick to the bottom of the wok, then you know it's not quite ready. I will check periodically to make sure that the skin of the salmon is not overcooked or burned too much. However, I do want them to become blackened. Now you notice that the salmons are slightly different in thickness. Some of them are thinner because they come from the edge of the salmon, and some of the pieces are thicker. By cutting the salmon into individual pieces, you can check their progress. So you can control how much you want to cook of each of the pieces. The skin of the salmon is truly one of the best kept secrets. For Joni and I, the salmon cooked like this is by far probably the best part of the salmon, and that is the skin. So by now, I flip the salmon over and to cook the side of the salmon. Because the salmon are cut into small pieces, it greatly accelerates their cooking. In fact, it probably cut the cooking time by half. It takes about usually 10 to 15 minutes to cook the entire salmon pieces. But using this method, it takes only about 5 to 7 minutes. The oil in the bottom of the wok has turned into a yellow color. This is the oil come from the salmon skin. And by now, the thinner pieces of the salmon are already done. So I remove them and set them aside. And this will allow me to control how much I want to cook them. So as shown here, I turn the thicker pieces to cook them on the side. And this greatly accelerates their cooking. And there's a couple ways to check whether they are done or not. The first way is just simply by appearance. You can see crack between the flesh of the muscle. That tells you that the salmon is almost done. Or you can use a meat thermometer to test the internal temperature of the salmon. There are many ways to use your salmon after you cook it. We used to use the salmon as the main ingredients, but increasingly we use as a condiment. For example, we use salmon in salads. And I strongly recommend you to give this method a try, particularly if you enjoy salmon. I truly think you will love it and you will not be disappointed. I post a video each day to help people to adopt my fast cooking system, which will make home cooking practical, efficient, creative, and fun. If you want to learn more about my fast cooking system, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So keep on cooking. I will see you tomorrow.